till now, in many sessions, we have studied about, different adaptations and how they perceive through natural selection. But the thing is, the next part of natural selection is inheriting it to the next generation. And that process is called breeding. Now, breeding includes different parts where it is talking about pre-mating, mating, and post-mating behaviors as well. So whenever we talk about breeding ecology, we are looking at different aspects of what happens before mating, what happens during mating, and what happens after mating. So the ecology which is concerned with these particular phases of an organism, that is what breeding ecology is all about. So the breeding ecology flowchart talks about, selection, which is different process by which a female usually selects the male, or it also happens sometimes that male actually selects the female. So a particular gender or sex is determining or selecting a character or the entire mate. So first comes selection. Selection includes the process of courtship and competition associated with it, followed by mating. Okay. After mating, there might be nesting, but few individuals do not nest, they directly produce brood. So this is production of brood. Right. Then it is followed by parental care. Few organisms don't show parental care, hence the brood directly grow and develop on their own. And after growth and development, at a particular stage, they attain sexual maturity. And once they attain sexual maturity, they'll again go with the cycle of reproduction, which primarily includes selection of particular organisms, which is essential. Now this portion is called sexual selection. As because it is called sexual selection, it is associated with sexual reproduction. Now sexual reproduction is the most common life cycle in multicellular eukaryotes, but it is kind of absent in prokaryotes because prokaryotes have other similar processes but not sexual production. So the other processes are like conjugation, transformation, transduction, where genetic information or the DNA or RNA are transferred from one particular individual to other, having different strains. But the thing is, they don't undergo sexual reproduction or gamete formation. The basic information or fact about sexual reproduction is production of gametes and exchange of gametes. So in plants, this gamete production happens in multicellular phases. Now there is sexual haploid gametophyte and there is asexual diploid sporophyte. Now there are multiple exchanges that happen. Some are more gametophytic, some are more sporophytic, and that sort of generations. The changes in generation is called alteration in generation. Whereas in animals it is usually not that much prominent. But different organisms do have different life cycles, and this entire life cycle includes selection, mating, nesting, production of brood or eggs or child, and parental care, growth and development, and sexual maturity. So the entire life cycle revolves around that. So there are few species which ditch nesting or do not do nesting or parental care as well. So when we talk about each of the characters, we'll go through that. First, we'll start with understanding sexual selection. So sexual selection is a mode of natural selection. As it is the process of selection, there is one organism and a particular biological sex is choosing mate of the other one. Okay. So primarily it could be a result of particular or following processes. There could be two different processes. I mean, both of the processes are inclusive. They are not different. Both of them happen together sometimes. Some are more prominent and some are less. So the first facet or the process is male-male competition. To achieve a particular female, usually there is competition between the same sex, between a male and a male, and that is prominent. Once the winner male is there, then it tries to woo the female. Okay, this is very prominent. Now sometimes the male and male competition is pretty less, but they try to impress or woo the female. Okay, so this is competition and this is usually called as the courtship. So two different aspects of the sexual selection is male and male competition, which actually result in increase of strength, size, all that of physical characters, which are important for a competition. Okay, so these kind of sexual selection characters result in increase of characters which are physiologically adaptable and better for dominating or showing strength. Whereas female choice or the courtship characters are not very useful in survival because they're usually concerned with how females are seeing a particular male and how males can represent their good genes. Yeah. So there are multiple reasons or facets for it. And why are there differences? Why and how are these differences carried out? Why sexual selection works in the way it does? How is it working out? Why females are choosy? And why males have to get selected? Why not males? So there are like many questions that arises, but to understand the basic of it, there are many different aspects of sexual selection. Now, primarily to understand sexual selection, Darwin put forward the theory, which is also called as Darwinian sexual selection. Now, this was published in his second book. Okay, so he mentioned or proposed with Alfred Russel Wallace that the selection of character which enhances the reproductive benefits and fitness will be the character for sexual selection. Okay, according to Darwin, the characters which enhance the reproductive benefits as well as the fitness of the organism will be called as the sexual selection characters. Okay, and only beneficial adaptations were selected and displayed, which is kind of not accurate. Okay, in the sense now we know that, but at that time it was considered accurate because only good characters, only adaptable characters, beneficial characters were selected as per se by Darwin. Okay, and the next thing is the idea behind the sexual selection characters was similar to that of the natural selection. Only in this case, it is concerned with reproduction rather than fitness or resource development or resource provisioning. Okay, the other portion of natural selection functions around how an organism can live its life, survive, whereas this sexual selection, the mode of sexual selection and the natural selection functions around how an organism can reproduce and inherit its gene. Okay, so we are talking about multiple generations, survival, reproduction, and fitness through multiple generations. So Darwinian idea is about all that. Now to understand that multiple individuals who gave out different ideas. So other idea was Fisherian runaway. It was given by Ronald Fisher. Now it talks about a particular hypothesis called as sexy son hypothesis. Now usually it talks about a particular hypothetical situation where an organism, or let's say a female, a human female. Now let's take an example of a female human. Now she usually chooses a sexy guy because in turn his kid or her kid, both of their kids, will be attractive physically. Yeah. So the idea behind it is physical attractiveness will be transferred from one generation to other. Now it can be possible, it can be said both for any kind of character, not only physical, but it could be emotional, it could be intelligence, it could be any type of character that an organism is looking at. But the idea behind it is an organism's female, the individual female chooses with respect to one particular character which it wants in his or her brood. Okay, so usually a female wants and chooses with respect to what it wants in a brood, and that creates a positive kind of feedback. You mean if let's say female one of generation one, whatever I'm talking, selects a particular, let's say sexy son, okay, a good looking son, morphological character, so the son which is produced will be morphologically good looking. Okay, and again the next female generation will be provisional to select one particular sexy son. So there might be other individuals as well, let's say non-sexy son, there might be mediocre son, whatever. There are multiple individuals which are of the next generation, but the female will select only sexy sons. So it is plausible that the next generation will have only sexy sons, and that will continue. Okay, so more and more provisioning, more and more focus will be given up to that. So here we are talking about the selection or the female choice, where a particular female selects what's best for its kids. Okay, whatever the character she wants in a kids, she select accordingly. So that was the idea, which is not present in Darwinian theories. Darwinian theory talks about fitness, adaptations, beneficial adaptations, whereas Fisherian runaway talks about a positive feedback loop or a feedback runaway. This is what a runaway is like. It's not a loop, but it's a runaway. Like every time when the next generation happens, there is an input of more and more sexiness. Yeah. So here the character, whatever the character is, it could be anything. It could be a particular physical character. It could be any particular character of building nest. It could be a particular character of defining or studying something. Any kind of character is promoted more and more in the first further generations by the female. So that is what Fisher in Runaway talks about. So it focuses on the idea that more ornamental and aesthetic characters, which looks and feels good, which can promote things, are selected. Okay, and the speed of selection of a trait increases exponentially over multiple generations. So the speed of selection of that particular trait selection increases exponentially over multiple generations. Okay, so the selection of that particular character will increase over multiple generations because one particular character here is being selected more and more. Okay, and the genetic inheritance and the amplification of alleles will be the result of better fitness, right? So here what is happening is one particular allele is being amplified more and more in the particular generations. So that is the product of fitness, or that is what fitness looks about with that particular scenario. Now that might change in multiple scenario, but whatever is happening, there is an amplification of the percentage of one particular allele. Let's say there are blue and black colors. Black color seems normal, whereas blue color seems sexy or better adapted for a particular thing, or ornamentally or visually more appealing. Then that will be the character for selection in multiple generations. Or the visual appeal that a particular character does has some significance to it, which no one understood. Hence, the next particular principle, which was promoted or proposed by Amod Zahavi, he said that these particular kind of visual signals, auditory signals, any kind of signals that are associated with selection, which are more and more complex, are because they have to promote honesty. Honesty in the sense the cost it needs to bear. Okay, whatever I'm doing, if I'm like working out, if I want to appear sexy or if I want to appear better looking, I need to work out, I need to maintain myself. Okay, so that the maintenance, that workout, all the things that I've been doing for that will be my cost. So it won't be dishonest, it will be honest because I am working, hence I'm looking that way. So something is there, physical fitness might be there, genetic betterment would be there. Okay, that shows that an organism can look and be better. So these kind of signals are provisioning or saying that there are good genes in the particular individual. Yeah, so there are something good, hence it is able to produce that kind of honest signals. So this is how these are promoted. Yeah, so honest signals are representing greater biological fitness. Now, when we talk about handicap principle, why is it named as handicapped? Now, handicap principle talks about a particular theory or a particular principle in horse racing or many kind of sports or athletic games where there are multiple kind of horses, right? So let's say there are multiple breeds of horse. Let's say one is a good breed and one is a moderate kind of breed and one is a bad breed. Okay, in the sense there are multiple kind of breeds which are specially bred for racing. Okay, so they're prepared for racing, they've been taken up care and all that. So there are multiple leagues for different kind of breeds. Okay, so as there's a premier league for different people who are playing very good. There are a medical level, there are district level, there are state level. So multiple levels of organisms are there, or multiple levels of competition, or multiple level of functioning are there, right? When we are talking about different levels, so what happens when a good breed, a horse of a good breed, competes with a medium breed race in a medium breed race? Okay, similarly, let's take example of a league match. Okay, there's a premier league that happens only once in a particular year, and there are multiple state level leagues, and there are district level leagues. So when a premier league player will be coming in a particular medium league, or let's say a particular state level league, now what will happen is he'll be allowed to with some restrictions. I mean, whenever good breed plays in a medium breed league, in case of horse race, they are allowed to start a bit late. Yes, because they're a good breed. So that particular situation is called handicapped. So they have been handicapped such that they can perform in par with a mediocre breed. Now, similarly, if a mediocre breed is being working around in a bad breed one situation, so it will be again given a particular headback. Yeah. So when a good breed functions in a bad breed race, so what will happen? It will be given more and more problems. Yeah. So sometimes they have been given extra weights, and they start late, and that sort of issues create or takes it on par with the particular breed or the league or the particular situation they are facing or particular type of competition. So when a national level or international level singer competes with that of a local level, obviously it will be some kind of restriction will be posed upon the international kind of singer, so that it will be on par with the all the contestants. So the contest will be fair, not judgmental or biased, because there is an already a pretty good particular player. Yeah, so that kind of situation, we are trying to understand that there are multiple individuals who are trying to woo a particular female. Now, one particular male had already got it. Yeah. So that is possibility that whenever the new male comes in, there are chances that they have to compete more and more. So in that situation, when a new male is coming in, it has to produce better signals than that of the already existing male. Yeah. A male has already won it. He had reproduced. Now the next male, whenever comes, it will try to produce more and more better qualities or better kind of quantities whenever it's trying to compete. And that's situation one. Now, other thing is when there are multiple bad level situations. Let's say someone is pretty bad, someone is pretty good. Okay, so a good particular male will be facing less problems or less cost to be better, but the worse one will have to struggle a lot to be a better one. So let's say there is the particular situation where is an organism is good and it has to reach a better kind of situation to attain the female. Okay, but someone is way more in love. There is good, there is bad, there is worse. Now all of them are trying to be better one. Okay, so when a worse one tries to be a better one, it will face more and more problems. Yeah. Similarly, when a bad breed race try to races when a bad breed horse tries to race in a good breed wala situation, so it will face lot of problems. But if it wins, that means it has done something very honest or produced or faced a lot of cost, done a pretty much a big job, right? Let's say in a singing competition, a singing reality show, a particular guy who is coming from a, let's say, a chawl, he has no even practice with music, he has not got any formal training, but he comes and competes with the students who have been practicing in their entire life. Yeah, so let's say there are 15 contestants, all of them are pretty trained. Now one particular situation, one particular students, one particular candidate or one particular contestant comes from a particular situation where he or she doesn't know any kind of singing, but he has that particular talent. Now the thing is, when they are competing in one particular ground, they all be judged equally. So the weightage of that particular individual, whenever we see in a TV show, we'll always consider him as a pretty good talented singer because he hasn't learned anything yet, he has come here at that particular point. So that is what handicap principle talks about. So there are multiple levels of interaction, multiple levels of competition, and different organisms, different individual deal at multiple sort of talents or multiple sort of abilities, adaptations. So always there is a try to go better. Even a good one is trying to be better. So when a bad one tries to be, pretty good and better than that, so they are giving more and more cost to themselves. They're working hard, and those particular signals appear more honest. Yeah, so that is one facet of it, and the other facet talks about how they signal whatever they're doing. A particular gene that is coming out, it needs some cost to be done. Maintaining that honest signals, maintaining that colorful feathers, maintaining that complex voice, okay, maintaining the voice for singing, maintaining the dance moves, all of that requires a lot of energy. Yeah. So an honest signal will say that they have been doing whatever is required to do that. So they have been practicing that, they have been nourishing that, they've been doing it better. So that's what handicap principle is all about. It is talking about two different aspects. One is there are multiple levels of competition or multiple levels of functioning where each of them are trying to be better than that. Okay, and the best one, the best distance traveled, or the best handicapped, or the best kind of organisms which have done the most cost or faced the most cost and proved to be more beneficial, it will be selected. Yeah, and the other facet is whenever this kind of honest signal comes out, it shows honesty in the sense of cost. So to produce a honest signal, to show a colorful feather, it needs to maintain it. It's need to produce that kind of colors. Okay, and to show a particular body, a good kind of body, they need to work out. So all these complexities that are associated with a signal requires particular cost, and more the signal are prominent, more the cost they have bared, which tells that if the female reproduces with that particular male, then it will get all the good genes that they have. Okay, that means his or her particular brood will be better at adapting, the process of adaptation. Okay, first Darwinian selection talks about the selection of adaptation. Okay, so there are multiple beneficial adaptation and good ones are selected. So that is how Darwinian selection functions out. Fisherian runaway talks about the selection that happens, whatever selection happens for a particular generation is meant to pass on to next generation such that the next generation also become fit. Okay, Darwinian selection talks about selection of one particular fit characters. Fisherian runaway talks about selection of one particular character for its next generation. Okay, the handicap principle or the principle of Zahavi, okay, or talks about, or the also called as honest signaling or good genes. It talks about why selection of that particular character will help in maintaining or producing better fit individuals. Okay, so these are two aspects or three aspects of entire idea of sexual selection. Hope you understood it. If you don't, we'll discuss it again.